Welcome back to another episode of 40 Facts About the 40K Universe. I am your host, Gersh1, and you are watching One Mind Syndicate. Today, we continue talking about First Founding Legions as we get into the Thousand Suns. Now, this is a pre-heresy Thousand Suns lore video. It's the origins of the Thousand Suns. We're going to get into more in-depth on the Thousand Suns after the heresy, so don't forget to subscribe. And if you guys have any suggestions for topic ideas that you guys would like us to create a video for, please comment down below. Don't forget to put suggestion followed by whatever topic that is that you guys would like us to discuss. With that said, let's get into 40 facts about the Thousand Suns. The Thousand Suns are one of the traitor legions of Chaos Spacemarines who are sworn solely to the service of Tzeentch, the Chaos God of Change. Though they were once the Imperium of Man's 15th Legion of Space Marines. The Thousand Suns were then and are now the legion with the most psychic mutations amongst the Space Marine legions. The Thousand Suns' pre-heresy power armor color scheme was red, in honor of their Primarch, Magnus the Red. The pre-Prosperian panoply of the original 15th Legion cannot be more in contrast to that which it would later take on, its coloration echoing that of both the Achaemenid Empire and the Neo-Heian Witchmark of Old Terra, centered above a lapis blue-colored M. The M most likely represents the ancient Roman numeral that stands for the number of 1000, which is the source of the legion's name. This also was reflected by the number of Magnus's gene sons who survived the horrible flesh change when they finally reunited with the Primarch on the world of Prospero. Others were eventually recruited during the course of the Great Crusade, swelling the ranks of the Thousand Suns well beyond the largest number. Space Marine legions were usually comprised of a minimum of 10,000 active Astartes. Like many of their contemporaries, those numbers grew over the centuries of the Great Crusade. The Thousand Suns were no different, eventually swelling to 80,000 up to 90,000 Astartes at the height of the Imperium's expansion before the Horus Heresy. Just before the heresy began, the badge of the 15th Legion was altered into a solar eclipse, which would become the Thousand Suns' official armoral icon, and the precursor to the Traitor Legion's post-heresy badge. Like all their predecessors among the Legionis Astartes, the 15th Space Marine Legion was first forged on Terra by the Emperor of Mankind, and its original members were recruited from the Terran population. The initial core of the Thousand Suns Legionnaires, the student aspirants, had been chosen from the psychically gifted individuals who had been citizens of the former Achaemenid Empire that had existed on Terra, and had been ruled by the Emperor for nearly a standard century. Because they had been under imperial rule for so long, the Achaemenid had not suffered as greatly as the other regions of the planet during the Emperor's unification wars to reunite all the various techno-barbarian tribes and the nation-states of Terra. The student aspirants of the 15th Legion had been chosen from among those Achaemenid families the Emperor himself had determined to show potential and were suitable for the gene seed implantation process. These young men were taken from the territories of the Achaemenid Empire to the Emperor's secret gene laboratory beneath the Himalayan mountains, where he first had begun his experiments in human enhancement and created the Primarchs to begin the student aspirants' transformation into Space Marines. One of these first student aspirants was Azek Ahriman and his twin brother, Ormuzd Ahriman. Once it had been raised, the 15th Legion was deployed by the Emperor to gain experience through the suppression of the few remaining pockets of techno-barbarian resistance on Terra to imperial rule. Boeotia was a nation that had existed since the Age of Strife, and was chiefly known for holding out against the unification for a considerable period of time until it was finally forcibly incorporated into the newborn Imperium. The ruling family, the Yesselti, attempted to stubbornly cling on to power, forcing Imperial army forces to invade their province. The Astartes of the 15th Legion were sent in to finally crush any further resistance in a brilliant campaign that lasted only 6 weeks. Having proved themselves in this first campaign, the 15th Legion was formally named the Thousand Suns by the Emperor and given their own expeditionary fleet, so that they might begin to make contributions to the Great Crusade the Emperor had unleashed to reunify all humanity within the newborn Imperium of Man. The next campaign they proved themselves in was the Xenocide of Kamenka, Troika. This was a campaign of extermination waged in the middle years of the Great Crusade against the barbaric greenskins of the Kamenka Troika system. The Emperor had issued the right of war, commanding the Thousand Sons, the Legio Astorum Titan Legion, and the life host of Panpak Eugenians of the Imperial Army, to drive the savage race of Xenos from the 3 satellite planets of Kamenka Ulizarna, a world claimed by the Mechanicum of Mars. The savagery of that war, the slaughter, the relentless grinding attrition had left tens of thousands of dead in their wake. The Imperial forces proved victorious after 2 standard years of fighting and earned a score of honor for their war banners. Victory had been won, but the cost had been high. The Thousand Sons sustained severe losses of 873 battle brothers of the 5th Fellowship, effectively wiping the 5th out as a functioning unit. This forced Magnus the Red to reduce his legion from 10 fellowships to the 9 classic fellowships of the Prosperian antiquity. The gene seed of the Thousand Sons was first derived from the samples of the psychically gifted DNA of their genetic father, Magnus the Red, and then implanted into the first Thousand Sons Astartes in the gene laboratories of Luna during a brief resurgence of warp storms within the boundaries of the Sol system. This brief surge of warp activity generated psychic convergences all across the globe, resulting in spontaneous outbreaks of psychotic violence. This unusual activity likely did not have any additional mutational effect on the Legion's gene seed. The organization of the Thousand Sons before the coming of Magnus is recorded that they were not considered particularly different from the organization of a typical Astartes Legion, apart from their unusually high number of battle brothers that possessed psychic abilities, which resulted in the Legion possessing the most powerful librarians during this era. When Magnus took over command of the Thousand Sons, he instituted organizational and hierarchical changes within his legion. Units known as chapters in some of the other legions, which contain approximately 1,000 Astartes, were now referred to as fellowships. The highest number of fellowships the legion was able to field when they rebuilt the legion was 10. The legion's command structure was adapted in accordance with Prosperian philosophy, and were now known as recti, or a coven of Magnus. A second command structure. The Legion's command structure was adapted in accordance with Prosperian philosophy, and were now known as Rahade, or the Coven of Magnus, a secondary command track in which the Legion's senior officers were ranked according to psychic ability and influence. As part of their training, all captains of the Fellowship undertook a temporary reassignment to another Space Marine Legion to learn its ways and further the Thousand Sons' understanding of the galaxy and pursuit of knowledge. Calophis had served with the Iron Warriors, a legion he admired and ranked second only to the Thousand Sons. Phosis Trock fought alongside the Luna Wolves and never tired of telling his brothers with tales of meeting Horus Lupercal, or boasting of his close relationship with Abaddon, the first Primarch's closest lieutenants. Hathor Motts served with the Emperor's children in their earliest days as they fought alongside the Luna Wolves. As Hathor Mott told of his experience to his fellow captains, he had caught the Phoenician's eye with his perfectly molded features, and had fought within sight on many occasions. Matt's proudest possession was an oath of moment carved by Fulgrim and fixed to his breastplate as he took his leave to return to Prospero. Uthisar's secondment had been amongst the shortest ever served, lasting a little less than a Terran year with the Space Wolves. Ahriman had spent 5 years with the World Bearers, learning much of their legion and methods of war. Magnus placed great faith in his subordinates, believing he had taught them well, and their powerful sorceries gave them the necessary tools to function independently of him. Before the heresy, individual Thousand Son squads were not led by the veteran sergeants, but by those who showed the most psychic promise. These thrall wizards were apprentices to more experienced sorcerers of their Kabbalistic training, but at the same time gained experience leading men in small units. While this practice meant it was rare for a Thousand Sons Astartes, who did not possess some measure of psychic talent, to become a ranking officer, it also meant those sorcerers who did gain prominence had considerable combat experience. As a result, the Thousand Sons, a numerically small legion to begin with, rarely took to the field in mass. Instead, they campaigned in smaller detachments, under the command of sorcerers, who often acted with much more authority and independence of their Primarch than other officers of other legions. This command experience had stood them in good stead as independent leaders of the Chaos Spacemarine warbands since the heresy, to the Imperium's considerable and continuous misfortune. When Magnus the Red reorganized the hierarchy and organizational structure of the Legion, he had 3 specialized units created. The Retai was the 15th Legion's inner coven of advisors and was comprised of the most trusted confidants of Magnus the Red throughout the Great Crusade until the start of the Horus Heresy. The Retai were drawn from the ranks of the elite captains of the Thousand Sons Fellowships to address whatever issues were currently concerning the 15th Legion. Its members were ever-changing, and inclusion within the Retai was dependent on many things, not least of which was the Astartes standing within the Legion. The cults of the Thousand Sons vied for prominence and a place in the Primarch's inner circle, knowing that to bask in his radiance would only enhance their powers. As the powers of the Immaterium waxed and waned, so too did the mystical abilities of the cults. The Retai served a similar position for the Thousand Sons that was comparable to the Morndeval of the Sons of Horus Legion. The second was the specialist unit known as the Scarab Occult, were also sometimes called the Sekhmet of Magnus Veterans. They were made up of the best and brightest of the Thousand Sons Legion and equipped with crimson-colored tactical dreadnought armor. The Sekhmet were active throughout the Great Crusade and the Horus Heresy. The Scarab Occult were all members of the elite First Fellowship, under the command of the First Fellowship captain, Azek Ahriman. These proud and extremely devoted warriors were both commanded veterans and highly ranked members of the psychically mastery cult system of the Thousand Sons. None of the Sekhmet were below the cult grade of Philosophus, the final cult rank a warrior could hold before facing the Dominus Liminus. Each warrior was able to mentally transcend their physical and emotional weakness, achieving a form of emotional purity that resulted in warriors who were both fearless and willing to follow orders immediately and unquestioning. This extraordinary level of discipline was commented on by some of the other Primarchs who witnessed the Sekhmet in action during the Great Crusade. The Great Khan of the White Scars Legion, Chagatai Khan, commented that they were no better than automatons, while in a similar vein, Ferrus Manus of the Iron Hands Legion likened them to robots. Lemanrus, the Great Wolf of the Space Wolves Legion, showed disdain for what he perceived as Sekhmet's perceived lack of fighting spirit. The final unit is the Hidden Ones, which were a specialist unit of the Thousand Sons that served as the Legion's second auxilia. There is very little in the way of information of how this mysterious unit was deployed or what kind of operations it undertook. Imperial historical accounts show that there is a distinct possibility that these specialized reconnaissance troops served a far more sinister role of the 15th Legion, that was more akin to espionage agents than a unit of typical scout marines, encompassed of the Astartes neophytes. An operative of the Hidden Ones would infiltrate a target organization of interest to gather intelligence while operating under a cover so deep that they never even realized that they had been psychically reprogrammed to act as sleeper agents for the Thousand Sons. The Hidden One status following the 15th Legion's transformation into the Chaotic Traitor Legions devoted to Tzeentch is unknown. And those were 40 facts about the Thousand Sons. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. There's going to be a part 2 where we get into what happened to the Thousand Sons once they actually became traitor. Right now, what you can check out is the Rubric Marine video. It's our 40 facts on the Rubric Marines. That tells the story of the Thousand Sons and how they became Rubric Marines. If you guys have any suggestions for topic ideas, please comment down below. It really helps us out to figure out what you guys want to hear about. So put suggestion followed by whatever topic of Warhammer 40k you guys would like us to discuss. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the little notification button. It's the little bell icon right next to subscribe. YouTube is doing that from now on. And of course, if you do that, Tzeentch will bless you with good fortune. If you don't trust me, do it and you'll find out. Again, guys, thank you for everything. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And check out our Patreon channel. For a simple $1 a month, you get to experience some pretty awesome stuff on there. This was Gersh1 with One Mind Syndicate, signing out.